and welcome to the three quarters update for 2025 Season 4. I ran 15 races these last 3 weeks, which is as many races I ran the entirety of week 6, because I ran like 10 305 races at Knoxville trying to tick that bad boy off. But like I mentioned in the last video, I was looking forward to hopefully some tracks in the 305 where you got to do a bit of lifting, and we got ourselves one straight out the gate on week 6. Or sorry, week 7 rather, at Fairbury, I believe it's a quarter mile in Illinois. Um, Gavin Chatham was on the pole, got away. Well, he didn't get away, but he was right ahead of me for the opening stage of this race. You'll see he led about until the halfway point, and then he got into a lap car at one of the point. I want to say in turns 1 and 2. Might have been 3 and 4 now that I think about it. But in either case, he got loose and fell back a ways behind me. And unfortunately, the momentum is key in the 305, regardless of how much throttle play there is. And there wasn't even really a ton here at Fairbury, not that I can remember. But one race that week this is the only one I did that would have counted towards anything. But we'll walk through a couple other ones I did during week 7. It'll be the USF race at Alton Park. I got junked on lap 1. Jarrett Corey and Richard Matthews went off the track at the kink, the end of the backstretch, and rejoined. Matthews hit the curb on the inside up the hill and shot wildly into my car on the right, and I was dead. So I limped it back to the pits after spinning multiple times. That's how I ended up with a 9X. 2 spins and an off track and whatever else, and got it back to the pit, stayed on the lead lap, but finished basically, last to the guys that were moving, but not, at speed or whatever. Just kind of the state of the game right now in USF. Not the funnest thing in the world, but would have been a great battle between myself, Bruno, Jarrett, Alex Miller. I mean, we would have had maybe 4 or 5 cars running for the lead. Carl Cube was up there. Like, we would have had a solid race here, but unfortunately that was not what happened. Legends Road Cup at Winton. I was running 3rd and then just got turned off the nose, if I believe there was I don't know who spun me, but I got turned off the nose of a guy at some point and fell back a couple spots. Managed to make my way back up to 5th through some additional attrition of people spinning around all over the place, and it's just all she wrote with that one. Winton's fun. I think the track's fun. I didn't have like pristine pace by any means, but like I felt like I would have been able to do something if people weren't willing to just, quite frankly, crab in a barrel me. But that's Winton. So that's the second to 4 races in week 7. Then we move on, or sorry, the third of 4 races in week 7. Then we move on to the last race I ran, which was Indy Next at Indianapolis. Finished 4th in this one. Qualified 4th and fell back 2 spots because I got loose coming through the chicane on the backstretch. Fell down a couple spots. Was potentially in for an opportunity at 3rd with Hazelworth having some struggles at some point. He tried to let me through, and I didn't really take advantage of that and held us back a little bit, but I was able to hold on to a 4th place spot. Good fun here at Indianapolis Road. Just need to find a little bit more speed, especially in the opening stages, and hang on to it. But we'll take that as the blessing that it is and keep moving forward. And so this will bring us a bit into week number 8, which we'll see Ferrari Challenge at Thruxton. This is my 3rd start and my 3rd win in the Ferrari Challenge car. Thruxton's fun. This is a really good track to learn. I spent a good bit of time learning it between this and the Kia, because Global Challenge was here a couple weeks ago, but I unfortunately did not get a race for that. But started 2nd, took the pole away from Peter DeFeo in the opening couple corners. He just didn't seem to have the comfort in the opening portion of the lap on the cold tires, so I was able to take advantage of that. And Juan Dos was clawing his way through the field, and I think he just struggled to keep the car consistently on the track in the right spots and probably had to serve a slowdown penalty or 2, or just was inconsistent, and I was able to hold on and win there. So another win in the Ferrari Challenge car. That moves us up to I believe this is 18 new tracks as of this point here. So that's the start of week 8. Then we move on to MX5 at Hungaroring. Taxato, he walked me and whoever I was racing with. I forget. I want to say it was the 3-car. Regardless of who it was, I was having a solid race with them, and then they spun at some point, and I was able to inherit the second spot and just kind of walk from there. Hungaroring was a fun track, and we'll see that I didn't spend too long trying to get a win nailed down. Went back in and ran Legends Road Cup at Laguna Seca. Not one of my strongest tracks by any means, but I managed to start third, finish second, had some cars spin in the early stages. I led a couple laps. Cole Hooper worked his way from the back of the field and ultimately charged on by me at some point. It was just outright faster than me. As you can see, his fastest lap was faster than mine. I'm almost convinced that would have been a lap with some sort of draft in play in the late stages. Because, yeah, he got by me, and I tried to stay sucked up to him if I could and just couldn't do anything. So he had the speed. I did not. Cole Hooper picked that one up. So that's the second race of 6 during week 8. Or, sorry, the third race of 8. Third race of 6? I'm struggling reading my own spreadsheet here. It's the third race of 6. Then later that evening, I went back to the Hungaroring in the Mazda. Had a great battle with Santiago Maciel for the win of this one. He was basically on my gearbox the bulk of it. He had struggled at some point, fallen back a bit, drafted back up to me, made it by me going on to the final lap. And I managed to. He got loose through the right-hander towards the end of the lap before like the big hairpin left. And I got to his outside, which turns into the inside for that corner. And we made contact coming into the corner because he kind of got sideways to the right, banged into the outside of my car. I kept it straight and then made it through that hairpin there, worked through the last corner hairpin, and ultimately won the race. It's fun. Reminds me that I need to drive the Miata a lot more. It's a fun car. It produces some great racing. I just haven't gotten around to driving it in a long time because I haven't had a reason to, or a really deep desire to. But the Mazda Miata is one of the best cars on iRacing, and again, they just hand this thing out for free. So if you haven't ripped the Mazda in a while, go do it. You can do it regardless of how new or old your account is. So that was the end of Tuesday of that week. I run 2 more races this week. I went and ran Sandown in F4 Asia Pacific. I'm not fast here, seemingly. I think I need to figure out the F4 a bit better. I've gotten fortunate enough with I think after this week 9, I've made 6 starts in the car and picked up 3 wins in it. Gotten very lucky, though, I think, is the one thing I've learned with any of that, is that I've been able to put myself at the front of the field. I don't think Ryuting qualified for this race. No, he did not. So I found qualifying up near the front of the field and being able to just hold that really, really helped. With this one in particular, he was hounding me for the later stages of this race and probably had an opportunity to pass me before this race ended, but just never got alongside or around me. So picked up the win at Sandown. That'll be the 3rd track of this week, 4th track of this grouping of 3 weeks here. So another road course down there. That'll take us to the Indy Next race I ran at Oulton Park. I nearly didn't make the first lap here. I don't remember who exactly spun ahead of me. I want to say it was Jean-Philippe off turn number 1. He spun in front of me, and I just barely cleared him. The 4X was from, I believe, netcode contact with his car. But I made it through there. Then I want to say there was a lap car coming up the hill at some point that I had to get by very slowly. That kind of brought me out of contention to try to maybe take a 3rd place spot from Angelo back. But Oulton Park, I didn't spend enough time practicing here, clearly, because there was guys that were over a second faster than me. I was not as aggressive as I probably needed to be here. It's a track that there's a lot of track limit you can exploit. Not even track limit you can exploit, but just a lot of ground that you can be much more aggressive on corner entry and exit. And I wasn't really taking full advantage of that, and I could feel it. So just played it safe, played it cool. I mean, I was just happy to be running in the right direction past a point. So we held on to 4th, and we'll hopefully, with next going to Lime Rock Park this week, be able to have a bit more pace, have it a bit more figured out, but we'll go from there. So that brings us to the end of week 8. Moving into week 9 now, we'll head back to the 305 Sprint Car on Monday night at 10 p.m. 2 weeks on. Federated Auto Parts at I-55. I pick up the pole in this race by not a lot, little under half a tenth of a second, but I get the whole shot in this race. Ran the outside lane for a good portion of the opening, I ran the bottom for the opening portion, moved to the top, or I guess the middle lane, for a while just to kind of shake it up and make sure I didn't wear the bottom out. And then had Aaron Christians chasing me down in the later stages once we started catching lap traffic. Christopher Moore there and whatnot. So I had to kind of navigate the traffic, work my way through that, keep a cool, calm, collected. Ultimately was able to run the bottom the last couple laps, stay ahead of Aaron. He put on a great fight from the 3rd spot, but ultimately was enough to get I-55 ticked off, leaving me with now 3 dirt ovals, which we'll kind of cap off at the end of this video, what's all left on the track front. Then that would lead us into Tuesday, in which we ran our official USF 2000 strength and field race at Watkins Glen. Necessitated a pit stop. It's kind of sloppy. I did not set a good qualifying time in the slightest here. Bit messy from pretty much everybody in the field. Nobody seemed to have a really particularly great time here, despite the race being somewhat unique and having to do a 2-second pit stop for gas. Just one of those things that, as much as I'd like to say that this was a match made in heaven, it certainly wasn't. I mean, it's Watkins Glen Classic Boot. It's a draft battle track with how low horsepower these cars are, and you're just hoping that everybody kind of plays nice and is able to keep the packs together. And unfortunately, we had more or less 2 distinct groups. You had the top 3. Kevin managed to get away without pitting because he took fuel before the race even started. He started from the pit lane, and so that kind of unraveled some things, but ultimately I just had nothing for going on in this one. We'll move on past that. It's kind of the only low light of week 9 here, as the rest of the races I raced this week, I ended up picking up wins in one way or another. So that takes us to later that night. I ran Legends Road Cup Sonoma Short. It's not the race. Legends Road Cup Sonoma Short, Cup Short rather. I had a great battle with Jay Bast for the win here. He was hot on my heels the bulk of this race. I just kind of ran a defensive line, and he wasn't able to get the pass completely made on me. Ultimately, I believe the last lap, he got loose coming off the right-hand turn heading towards the S's. Not towards the S's, but the one heading downhill towards the right turn to get to the S's, rather. And smacked that wall that they tend to get pretty close to in the NASCAR stuff, and that ultimately undid his race. Shot him down the order, and resulted in me being able to kind of cruise the rest of the lap and pick up the win over Riley Marabello. But wasn't a unique track here. This was another win, my second at Sonoma, but different config at least, so that'll be something I can add to my config tier list when I get back to that at some point, probably the end of the season. Later the same evening, I opted to run the Kia at Le Mans. I don't like Le Mans. The Kia at Le Mans made it probably even worse, but I just don't care. This isn't a track I'm particularly interested in racing all that much. It's one of those like the Daytona Road Course, like the full Daytona Road Course, where it works well as an endurance track because it's not that complicated and you can kind of just hit the laps, but just not that fun to race on in sprint formats. I could probably say the same thing about the Nürburgring. I could say the same thing about Spa, probably. Like, a lot of those tracks just don't, to me, they get overdone through these sprint races, and then by the time you get to a big race like a Spa 24 or whatever, it's just not quite as stand out to some extent because we've done so many laps of those tracks. And then late Friday evening, I guess technically Friday morning because it's midnight at the time of my time at which I registered for this, I ran F4 at Aragon. So my first race at Aragon. Started second. I had no pace. I fell down to third at one point with Nagel and I believe Goncalves, Alessandro. Alessandro got on the pole by a decent margin over me. 4/10 of a second. And um, I mean, I think a lot of this is unfamiliarity with the car and unfamiliarity with the track, more or less. I spent maybe a half hour to an hour running laps here in this car here. The only other laps I'd run prior to this was just running like throwaway laps in the Clio in the wet here, just to take the track off for driving on it. But now that I've won on it, I think the track's a lot of fun. It stood out as like a very interesting flow track. What ultimately ended up happening in this race was, I want to say with 3 laps to go, Goncalves got locked up the brakes heading into the left-hander. I believe it's turn 9 on the Grand Prix layout here at Aragon. He got back on the throttle to try to rejoin and nearly hit my car, but I managed to make it past him, take the lead there. And then him and Nagel later that lap must have crashed into each other at some point, because I got the spotter call. It's like the gap to the car behind is 9 seconds or something. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. There was a car that was 2.5 seconds behind me just, a couple seconds ago. And that ultimately was allowing me to cruise the rest of the way to finish this one out. So that results in the last 3 weeks picking up another 7 new tracks on the season. I believe that brings the total count up to 23 this season, which is getting close to what I did last season with 27. So if I can tick off maybe a couple more, 1 a week, 2 a week here and there, I can tie that on that front. Got a couple kind of on the radar with that, but this is, sometimes you just got to get lucky, and I got lucky with this Aragon race. I'm not particularly proud of my pace or kind of how that played itself out, but we'll get to the spreadsheet stuff here, kind of walk through what I'm looking at on that front. Start with the result sheet for, actually we'll start with the result sheet for the kind of 3 series I've been focusing on. So Watkins Glen and USF was a struggle bus. Would like to tell everybody that Five Flags got 1 official race all week in the USF series. So if you were one of the 7 cars that got to run USF at Five Flags last week, shout out to you. Ran that Alton Park race in Indy Next Road. That was a 4th place finish. It's not quite my best finish I've had so far this season in that car, but nonetheless, solid showing there. Hopefully be able to continue on that trend, especially as we get to tracks like Lime Rock Park and Barber, where I might have a bit of an upper hand over some people. I've only been running like one race a week when I've gotten around to those. Looking forward to hopefully being able to run a lot more next season, especially because the next road schedule should be a majority of new tracks for me. So we've got Legends Road Cup. Ran those couple races between Laguna and Sonoma and Winton. So that's the only series I've been running consistently every week, especially since the bulk of the schedule is free tracks for that series. We'll move into week 10 for that series with Scuba. That's going to be 2,000 full this time, and then obviously Lime Rock Park GP for next, and USF just so happened to be the same week. I'm sure iRacing did that on purpose, but we look into kind of the schedules of things yet to come. We've got the Dirt Legend and the Pro Late model at Lucas Oil. I am thinking I could potentially dodge this, because I could go try to do it with the new Lucas Oil off-road track next season and whatever stuff's racing there. Maybe get some more jumpy truck time, since that sounds like it's going to be the only place you can drive it, since the new FIA cross car sounds like it's going to be a rookie car. We'll just have to see. 360 sprint car at Weed Sport. It's the first of 3 weeks I can run Weed Sport. It's running in the 305 during week 11, and then the Dirt Street stock in week 12. We'll just see what happens. GT3 Europe at Zolder. TCR, GT4, and LMP3 are at Zandvoort. We'll see if maybe I can learn TCR again, run like the Veloster or something. I only have wins in the Honda because that's the only one I had until I picked up all the cars. But Zandvoort's there. M2 or Ferrari 296 at Catalunya. I might try to take that as an opportunity to run the M2 again. It's been a minute since I've run the BMW M2, and then we've got just IMSA Vintage and Clio, which I don't think I'm going to go out and do. Just given I don't think that they're going to get a ton of fields for those. And obviously, IMSA Vintage is very, very competitive, as is the Clio in their SOF races. So, then you got Legends at Rudskogen. I think that's my golden opportunity to finally tick off the last free track on iRacing as it stands right now. 305 at Weed Sport. It might be a bit easier to tick that off compared to the 360. I've yet to win in any sprint car other than the 305. So we'll just have to see. Spec Racer Ford at Jerez. We'll just see how easy it is to get a field and if I can figure both the car and the track out. I was trying to do laps at Imola this week, maybe try to tick that off in that car and just could not keep it on the track, but that might be an Imola problem more than it is a Spec Racer Ford problem for me, as I know I've picked up a couple wins at Schuschleben in that. F4 at Misano. It's the only series that's running Misano at this. They're past that point because obviously the Clio's going there during week 10, but it was the only other series I do believe that was going to Misano this season, so again, it's just another one of those. If I can get to it, obviously week 10 is going to be pretty packed because we've got the SCCA runoff special event this week, and then week 12 looks really dense because you've got M2 296 at Magny Core, a bunch of stuff at Hockenheim, Weed Sport, as I mentioned before. F4 Americas is at Willow Springs. It's like the only other time besides Lotus 79 that track's getting run this season, although I believe it's going to get used on the advanced Mazda schedule next season, so I might put that off as a result of that. But then, Zolder, Rudskogen again, and then Supercars at Imola. Not a whole lot there. If we look at tracks on the whole, I've got 3 tracks I need to drive on: Misano, Willow Springs, Darlington. Darlington got used a couple weeks ago in the IndyCar, and I just forgot to run practice laps on it. But we're down to 3 dirt ovals: Lucas Oil, Port Royal, and Weed Sport. There's nothing left running Port Royal this season. That was dirt prolates. Week 8 was the last thing that was running that this season. But we're down to 3 dirt ovals. Haven't moved anywhere on the ovals, but we're still sitting on 21 there. And then the road courses we're down to 18, only 4 of which I've run a race on. So just a matter of probably getting out there, driving it, learning the tracks, learning some cars that are racing on it. It looks like to some extent it should be fairly easy to get a number of these next season. A number of series are running pretty much every track I have left, barring, I want to say Zolder's the only one I haven't seen. I can actually go look real quick. We can take a look at this. So this is what I have so far for schedules for next season, but 5 uses of Mugello, that's Imola, 4 uses of Mugello, 20 different appearances for Mexico City. Interlagos is seeing 11 uses. Belle Isle's getting used twice in Global Challenge and potentially Super Formula Light. They might replace that with an Adelaide or a Miami from the sounds of it. But either way, I'll probably try to get out in the Kia, the Cadillac, and slog away at Belle Isle because I think that should be a fairly easy one to do. We'll just have to see. Legends Road is running Cadwell Park during week 4. I'm going to be probably hitting the hay on that one as hard as I can. Zandvoort's getting seen a couple times. Magny Core, I guess, also is not getting used. Neither is Misano. Jerez is getting used one time, I believe, in Spec Racer Ford again because what is running Jerez next season? IMSA. But yeah, you've got Donington, Fuji, Hockenheim. Rudskogen's going to get used a bunch. Willow Springs is actually getting used twice. I want to say loaded. Yeah, 49s are going there. And then MX5 during week number 7. Silverstone's going to get used a good bit. I don't know any of the dirt oval schedules yet. And then the good number of the oval schedules. Pretty much every oval is getting used multiple times next season by my count. LA Coliseum, I believe, is going to be on Legends Oval. Assuming this schedule's correct, I just went off of what I saw on the forums. Not sure what actually got submitted or not, but we'll see what happens. Otherwise, that can always get pushed down the road. So many tracks left. I'm ahead of my own schedule here as we have 42 tracks total. We're getting 2 new locations next season in Miami and Adelaide, the 2 street tracks. And then obviously Lucas Oil Off-Road's being added to the Lucas Oil Dirt Oval package. So that means if I can somehow win at Lucas Oil this week, that should put me in the clear for that, unless iRacing does deem it as a separate facility, which I do think would be kind of odd, especially given how much they've kind of alluded to it being off in the distance at Lucas Oil Speedway. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to cleaning out the last of the season here. It's been pretty quick. It's been a very fast season by and large. It feels faster than the last one, and I think that's just because the winter's only got so much going on as we're heading towards it, so it's only going to feel like it's getting slower, I guess, going into the wintertime here. We'll just have to see. Obviously, there's obviously going to be still stuff going on in the wintertime, but hopefully I can clean out some more tracks. I'm looking forward to doing some new stuff next season, running some more Next Road. If we look kind of, if I get all these out of the screen here, we've got USF's running a number of tracks next season that I can try to pick up. Not sure how likely I am to do all those. It just depends if there's going to be decent turnout for some of these. Obviously, with both Miami and Adelaide on that schedule, those are going to be new tracks, and we're running them fairly early in the season, so maybe there's still some interest and people will turn out for those. It's a big risk, but I think it's calculated enough for that series because we're running, Catalunya and Mexico City, which has seen decent popularity, and then the rest of the schedule is basically just free tracks, and Phoenix, which is a fairly popular oval given its presence in the NASCAR stuff. And same deal with Legends Road. We stuck mostly free tracks, and then the couple that aren't are, Mexico City twice, Catalunya, Cadwell Park, Watkins Glen. Like, nothing super, super crazy. But next road next season will be cool. Mexico City, Catalunya, Zandvoort, Interlagos, Imola, Fuji, Silverstone. I want to say Montreal might get dropped for Miami. Last I talked with Ellen or Solstice about what we were going to do with that, but yeah, it sounded like that might make the cut there. We'll just have to see, but look forward to it. Obviously, the next oval schedule is going to be the big thing for me as the community manager there, but only so many things can happen at one given time, and we'll just keep going from there. You can see I've already kind of got a rough plan of what happens week to week. I might try to get back on the ovals because there's not too many more road courses. I can't have another 20 plus track season without running an oval, more or less, at least if everything goes to plan this season. If I can pick up maybe Weed Sport and or Lucas Oil, that's going to make it where the dirt ovals aren't going to be there anymore, so I have to move to the ovals, and I think it's time. I think going into 2026, I'll be able to invest more time into that. Obviously, the IndyCar is going to have its hybrid update. That'll be big for that car, hopefully, on that front. I do plan to try to run at least the fixed sprint series, so the one that runs the calendar over here. Use that as an opportunity to pick up maybe a win at Kentucky or Michigan, Pocono, something, right? We can see just kind of how that goes. I'd like to do some various stuff. I've talked about doing track guides for Next Road next season. Might do them for Next Oval as well if I can figure out a good way to do that. But appreciate you tuning in. Solid, good click of progress. 7 new tracks over the course of 3 weeks is nothing to sneeze at, especially 2 weeks of 3 and 3 apiece. And the only week that I had the one was basically the only thing I was going to get that week. So I got it early in the week and was just able to kind of hang out and relax the rest of the week and go from there. But we'll just have to see. Obviously, a big week 10 with SDCA runoff stuff. You've got that'll be GT4, Spec Miata, or the Mazda Miata. You've got the Spec Racer Ford. Those are the 3 sports cars taking that on, and then you'll have the Formula V. And obviously, the reason I'm going to be trying to participate is the USF 2000, the only special event that the USF 2000 has participated in. And it's also, I believe, one of the few cars that's participated in all 4 years of the iRacing SCCA runoffs. Looking forward to that. Hopefully going to get a lot of guys out there that want to take that challenge on. I know there's some guys that are going to probably do the same thing they did last year and take on every single race, all 5 or 6 of them, I believe. So should be cool to see guys in hopefully every single one of those broadcasted races on the iRacing YouTube channel. But I want to thank everybody for watching this. And if you've been supporting P1's coverage of Indy Next with me in the booth, I want to shout out anybody who's been tuning that in, any of the other P1 coverage. Very much appreciate you guys supporting that. And we'll see you at the end of the season where hopefully I have a couple more tracks ticked off and we can head into 2026 with a different outlook on things and see where we can go from there. But have a good one, everybody.